Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
doing well. How are you, Anna?
I'm doing good, doing good.
Hi, Lee. I think we're waiting for Martin,
Yeah.
and it'll be the four of you today.
And it looks like a short one today.
Oh, I'm knocking on wood.
Knock on wood.
It's always the short agenda that turns into a long meeting.
Exactly.
You can blame it on me.
It wouldn't be the first time this happened. No, we really. Yeah, I don't see too much here. How are you, Lee?
Good, I made it. Took me a long time for some reason to
Get in?
connect. I think it's my computer though, so, but I made it almost on time.
It's a little
Well-
rainy too. Sometimes that interferes.
Yeah. So we can give Martin another. Well, we have to, right? I mean,
Yeah, we need our quorum.
we need quorum. Okay, we'll just hold on.
Is it just gonna be four of us tonight?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, Bob and Joe aren't able to come today.
And John, what about John?
And John has submitted his resignation
Oh, he did. Oh,
to the
geez.
agency. I know.
Sad.
Came as a surprise. But I would say he's served his time well.
think so.
We don't really owe.
Yeah, I know. I was sad, and then I thought, well, I don't know how many years.
He had a good run.
Many years.
He did. He did.
I was about to ask how long he's been on a member.
What did he
Decade.
say in his letter? Let me see if I had it.
15, 20. It's been a
I
long
feel like
time.
it. Yeah.
It's longer than that, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, because I think I've been on it almost 15 years. probably.
Okay.
Time flies, Kayla.
Really, it's so fun.
It really does fly.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Because
I
he was
know.
on it for years before I joined. I would have
20
said,
years.
oh, is that,
20 years.
I would have thought it was
Is that
more.
all?
20 years, and he served as chair for 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a good run. I'd feel guilty if I begged him to stay. Oh, here comes Martin. Good.
So, are you there, Martin?
He's Still
Mine says
connecting
it's
here.
connecting to audio is what it says.
You see him.
There it is.
Yay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Okay. So I would like to open up the Madison Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 7:03 p.m. And the first item on our agenda is the public hearing for 22-36 Race Hill Road. This was continued from last month.
Just one housekeeping item, Kayla. Anna is our alternate, and
I
so
know.
she needs to be seated in the absence of either Joe or Bob for this evening.
So
Do we need a motion for that? I move we seat Anna.
Yeah, it's just the chair would
Yeah.
appoint, but I just wanted,
Okay.
because it is a public hearing, I think just to,
okay, well, I would like to appoint Anna Loss. Is it Loss or Los?
Lost.
Loss as a voting member for our meeting tonight. Okay, so we need to, do we vote to reopen the public hearing or,
yes.
all right?
Well, you just, yeah, you could reopen the hearing. You can do a motion for that, yes.
I move we reopen the public hearing for, I don't have the
It's 22-36.
22-36 Race Hill Road.
I'll second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we are officially in our public hearing, and it looks like we have Mr. Ott, maybe, for the applicant.
Yes, Mike is
There you
here.
are,
and,
Mike.
Mike, would you like to recap where we are at this point, or would you like me to do that first? It's up to you.
You could, if it's okay, but do you see Rich Snarsky, Aaron?
I have two people in the audience. One has the initials JQP, and the other is Krista Anania. I don't have
Okay.
any other individuals in attendance, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
I'll keep that open in case we see. So sure, just to provide a brief recap, this is an application that was deemed a significant activity by the commission. You opened the public hearing at the last meeting and had some additional requests for the applicant, specifically from the wetland scientist, which as I recap, were to have the wetland scientists revisit section 7.6 of the regulations, specifically letters, subsections C, D, E, and F, numbers 2 and 4, and letter G, basically to see if there's more information that can be included as it relates to the specific proposal and potential impacts to both the vernal pool and Dow Brook. And additionally, the agency, you were looking to have the area of study defined in the report to ensure that Rich Snarsky reviewed any areas within 100 feet of the end of the driveway. Lastly, the applicant was to address the NDDB report and just manage, and how they're going to manage those precautions that were recommended. So, Mike, you can kind of take it from there. I did receive some updated information. It was this evening and that I did not have an opportunity to email that as a separate email out to the agency, but it is available for screen sharing. That we can go through that update. Mike, do you want to take it from there? Do
Sure.
you have that to share, or do you want me to share it?
You can share it, I guess, in a sec, if that's okay.
Yep.
I do have it though. So good evening. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summer Hill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison. I think as Aaron said, I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember the commission having any other questions or want additional information on the actual culvert itself or its design or construction. I think you mostly, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, wanted additional information from the wetland scientist. And I guess I can't see, but I think Aaron will tell us if he's able to log on or not. I met him in the field since the last meeting, and we walked the area of the driveway on the opposite side of the stream. And we actually went about 200 feet outside of the limits of the driveway construction, and there are no additional inland wetlands or vernal pools in that area. So he confirmed that, and he added that in his revised report that we just submitted to Aaron this evening. But that's really the only addition to his revised report. It's really just a sentence or two. Actually, it's two. Actually, it's one sentence. Two sentences, sorry. So that's really the only additional information that he provided in his report. I did look, I was out there again today, this afternoon. I did look when I was out there with Rich, and I looked again this afternoon, and I do think that the location that we have the crossing is the proper location. I do not think that the crossing should be slid downstream. The brook, if you face downstream, if you were to stand in the center of the brook and face downstream, the brook shortly after the crossing bends to the it would be to the west. So if you're facing downstream, it kind of bends to the right. And when you lay out the driveway in the woods and stretch a tape through the woods, as I did, to the brook, it makes sense where we have the driveway. We have the driveway over 100 feet from the brook where it takes a bend. I had Rich take a look at the wetland, at the brook again, and he confirmed that the wetland boundary is at the top of the bank of that section of the brook. So we're over 100 feet away from it. So the other reason we don't want to slide the culvert downstream is we're going to decrease the driveway intersection site distance to the crest in Race Hill Road. So I would prefer that we leave it where it is. I think it's the right location. And that's really all I have for you. I can try to answer. If you have other questions, I can certainly answer them. But that's all the information I have for you on Rich Snarsky's report.
All right. Thank you. So, questions from any of the agency members?
I would just say, I don't think, Aaron, I don't know if we got the revised report yet. Was it in an email? I don't think I saw it.
No, it didn't come in till this evening at 5:30.
Okay.
And I can screen share that for you now and show you the sentence that Rich updated, if you'd like. So here's a revised date, October 2nd. And there were no changes to page 1. And I don't know if you want to
It should.
read it.
The
What's that?
the only change is, if this will help you, the only change is at the bottom of page 2. He added 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, but the only one that's of any importance really, I think, is the
Right here.
first new paragraph. Yep. That's the one I was talking about.
Okay. Um, I guess my only question would be if that covers all of those items from the regulations, which I'm thinking it doesn't. But if anybody else had an opinion or had some thought on
So-
that.
Yeah, I think you're sort of at a point where you had mentioned information that you would like to have submitted to you. That information was not included in this report. You, I guess, have a few options. You can go back through what you asked for initially and reconfirm that, yes, you're looking for that, and request that the applicant or, give the applicant another opportunity to get this information. You can decide to move on without this information. I think your statutory clock, the applicant does have the option of granting an extension to hold the hearing open to allow for more information to come in. That may be the easiest way to handle this at this point, where Mike could then return to the applicant and let them know that this information is still outstanding, and that, it needs to be submitted for the next meeting, whether Rich is able to provide you with that information, or if another wetland professional can assist. So
I guess the question I have is, Mike, is there a reason why the additional information wasn't included in this updated report?
I don't know, Lee.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I can tell you what Rich has told me, but that doesn't really do you any good. You're not hearing it directly from him.
Right.
And he's still not on, I assume, Aaron.
no, he's not, Mike.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I think part of the problem is, I was going through our notes, is, these are things we've highlighted since receipt of the application, I think, or it's been at least 1 or 2 times. I know we were very explicit last month. But I think, it's designated a significant activity, and, there was a pretty big discussion last time at the end of the public hearing about this information. So, I guess we still need to let the public talk. We're just chatting, but, so if the other agency members have thoughts, that would be good. And then we can, so I guess what we should do is, if you have thoughts about this particular topic, we should talk about it. If you have other questions for Mike, let's ask, and then we can open it up, since it is a public hearing, and see if anybody from the public would like to comment this time.
I think that's the good approach. Let's open it up to the public, and then we can talk
Okay.
more about this later, unless Martin or Anna have anything else to add.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so I don't know those 2 attendees that are still there. Are they interested in speaking or commenting in any way on this application?
If so, we would just ask that you raise your virtual hand and will allow you to speak. I know there was a neighbor who was interested, kind of came into the hearing late, I think, the last
Right.
meeting.
Right. That was highlighted that a few people had missed.
Yeah,
So,
I don't see anyone raising their hands, Madam Chair.
okay. Okay, well, so for agency members, any other comments for Mike while we have the hearing open? Or yes, Martin. Oh, we can't hear you. Sad.
Uh-oh, your audio's not connected. It said it was connected or connecting when you got on.
Yeah, I thought it said connected when he,
Yeah, check your microphone maybe. See if it is the right one or you. I think he logged off to log back in real quick.
where did he go?
I think he logged off to see if logging back on would get him in. Sometimes when Zoom updates, it does some wonky things and all of a sudden it's connected
Oh,
to another microphone. And I had this at work with Microsoft Teams. I finally ended up just downloading the app, so I didn't have, I couldn't find a way to adjust the settings.
all right.
Did not connect.
It didn't?
I think it said Martin did not connect.
No, it's not. Yeah, we can't hear you again. Did you go next to mute, the little arrow where you can adjust?
I don't think he can hear either.
How about now?
Yes.
Now we can.
Yay.
All
Sorry,
right.
guys. I just wanted to say that I thought that Aaron summarized nicely what we had asked for previously, and I don't think we need to rehash it. I think it would be nice if those specifics were added to last month's minutes, and we'll get there. And I think it would be good if we could give the applicant more time to come up with the information that we're asking for. That's all I have to say.
All right. So, okay, so it looks like we still just have two attendees, neither of which has raised their virtual hand. I think we don't have very much else to offer. It sounds like, Mike, that there's still a desire to have the information from section 7.6 that was outlined in the last meeting minutes. So I guess it's up to you in a sense, if you want to continue, keep this public hearing open in order to have a chance to get the information.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Aaron, do we need to grant an extension?
Yes, so if you can do that on the record this evening, Mike, and then follow it up with a letter tomorrow that indicates you would grant an extension to the agency to hold the hearing open until their next meeting in November. Sounds crazy. What day will it be? Hold on.
Second. I think it's the second.
No,
No?
7.
that-
7.
Okay.
Yep, 11/7.
Okay.
So,
So simple as that.
okay, so for the record, I think on behalf of the applicant, I would agree to grant that extension, and I'll follow it up tomorrow with a letter, Aaron.
Thank you.
But before we end this this evening, was I right what I said earlier? Does the agency have any other questions about the culvert's construction or its design or construction sequence or erosion and sediment controls, dewatering, any of the things that we've talked about? You know, not related to the assessment of the wetlands and the project and how it relates to the wetlands.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I think you explained, and having walked this site, I think that, you know, where it's proposed probably makes the most sense. And I don't have questions about it, the others. Martin, are you okay with everything else?
Yep, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, so no engineering follow-up questions, basically.
right. Right.
Okay,
All right. So we will be back next time.
Excellent. I'll
Yes, maybe
take
not.
a motion to.
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to take a motion to continue the hearing. Just officially. So-
Second,
Okay, yeah, all right. I will make a motion to continue. Going to be very bold here. Martin has seconded. All in favor of continue the hearing until November 11th.
Aye.
All right. Okay. You can go, Mike.
All right. Thank you.
thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. So our next application, we have our receipts. We have one receipt. So we are receiving application 22-42, 353 Boston Post Road. This is by Kingsley Goddard and Kellyanne Quinlan for the residences at Barbary Hill. So regulated
yes.
activity permit to construct 12 detached single-family dwellings and associated site improvements within upland review area. This is the application this is a different version of the application that was withdrawn last month. As we do with applications that are received, we assess for significant activity, if there's a need for public hearing, if we want a site walk, and if we'd like independent professionals to assess the property. In the last case, the last iteration of this application, that's what we did. We decided we needed a public hearing. There's significant public interest. We decided we needed a site walk, and we had lined up independent professionals to assess the application. So I'll put that out there and suggest that we probably want to do the same, but I'm happy to hear what you all think.
I had one before we get into the decision-making, one update. The agenda, we did receive a correction to the application today. The original application form, page 1, it clarified that, well, it indicated that the address was Fort Path Road and Stony Lane, and has since been corrected. The goal of the applicant is to do a first split and create a new parcel that would front on Stony Lane and Fort Path. Currently, the property is still one lot as 353 Boston Post Road. So that we did want to at least properly identify the correct address and map and lot number. Additionally, the applicant was incorrect on the first application form, indicating that it was the residence at Barbary Farm LLC. And that has since been corrected to be Barbary 12 LLC. So just for the record, that is who the applicant is. It's a different owners of that LLC. And then, yes, as you indicated, this is a similar application, I think, as far as the extent of development in that northeastern quadrant of the property, still focusing 12 detached single-family dwellings within the 100-foot upland review area of inland wetlands and the Neck River. I think from just as considering the significant activity and whether or not this new proposal would be deemed a significant activity, I would just draw your attention to that definition. That's not only a public interest, but also some of the other criteria. And I have those here that I can at least read in so that you can consider that in your decision-making, whether or not you're going to again, consider this revised application a significant activity. And that specifically is any activity, including but not limited to activities which may have a major effect or significant impact on wetlands or watercourses. One, any deposition or removal of material in or from a regulated area, which will or may have a perceptible effect on the regulated area or on another part of the inland wetland or watercourse system, whether at or outside the area for which the activity is proposed. Two, any activity which perceptibly changes the natural channel or may inhibit the natural dynamics of a watercourse system. Three, any activity which perceptibly diminishes the natural capacity of an inland wetland or watercourse to either support desirable fisheries, wildlife, or other biological life, prevent flooding, supply water, assimilate waste, facilitate drainage, provide recreation or open space, or perform other functions. Any activity which, this is number 4, excuse me, any activity which is likely to cause or has the potential to cause measurable turbidity, siltation, or sedimentation in a wetland or watercourse. 5, any activity which causes measurable diminution, of flow of a natural watercourse or groundwater levels of the regulated activity. 6, any activity which is likely to cause or has the potential to cause pollution of a wetland or watercourse. Or 7, any activity which damages or destroys unique wetland or watercourse areas or such areas having demonstrable scientific or educational value. So just in considering all 7 possibilities, and the commission, you would need to make take an official vote to determine an application to be deemed significant, which would then trigger the public hearing process as we're going through for the Race Hill application. And then additionally, if you feel that third-party consultant services are needed to assist the agency in the review, it would be the last time you had engineering services as well as wetland scientist.
Great. Thank you for thoroughly going through those. That is wonderful. All right, so for the commission members.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
You're on
Oh.
mute.
Oh, now you muted. This is your meeting, Martin. There you go.
Okay. Hello, sorry, guys. It's been a long day. I was just curious, sometimes even if we're just taking a receipt, we'll get some kind of a little presentation by the applicant. I wonder if they're around to just say a few words and walk us through, and specifically, it looks like, the 50-foot from the wetland line is indicated in yellow. And then there's a 100-foot wetland line. I just wanted to confirm that. I'm curious about how this might be different than the previous application. Just a little.
Basically, yeah, so the applicants are not here for a receipt because for purpose of this type of process, if the application is if they make a full presentation to the commission and then a public hearing is required, that's an additional presentation. And we've sort of made this policy, I guess, or process moving forward,
Okay.
where the actual presentation comes after receipt. But I can understand your questions. My thoughts in reviewing the application is that essentially the density is the same on that north eastern quadrant of the property. And it's really the area that was running along Stony Lane and fronting on Boston Post Road that was removed from the application.
Okay.
So the 12 units are, I mean, I can pull it up, the old application, but essentially, which is still on, or it is still available on our websites from the previous agendas. But it's my understanding that the 12 units are pretty much the same as what they were in the initial application.
Okay. Thank you.
So has the subdivision been approved yet? I mean, do we have to do a subdivision
No,
referral
In
or
this-
anything?
in
Go
this
ahead.
case, Lee, this is, this property was not divided since the adoption of the subdivision regulations in 1953. So this is
Okay.
considered a first split, which is not subject to the subdivision or
Got it,
the planning statutes.
got it.
Um,
Well, it seems like it's significant activity to me, and it seems like there's gonna be a lot of public interest as well. So, if we need to deem it a significant activity to trigger a public hearing, I definitely vote. I would be voting that it's a significant activity.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
significant activity is what triggers section 7.6 that we were discussing in the previous application, as far as additional information to be submitted to the agency.
Right. So the expectation would be that we'd want to see that additional information, given that we are deeming it a significant activity. So do we need to vote on that? Or,
Yes.
okay. Yes. Oh, you're muted. You've got a demon computer.
You're still muted.
Probably a good thing.
Oh, Lord. How about now?
Does this
Let's get this over with.
I just wanted to say, you know, if we're thinking it's a significant activity, I thought it might be important to say why we think it's a significant activity for the record. And, you know, from my perspective, it looks like it could be a significant activity because of the density of the development there, the amount of impervious surface, the number of septic systems within the regulated area, and the potential for, you know, erosion during construction, post-development impacts the wetlands from, say, you know, fertilizers and encroachment into the wetland buffer area, impacts to, you know, water quality possibly from septic system discharges. And I think that's about it. But it might be too specific, but those are just some things that come to mind as I look at this application. And so those items I think should be, you know, reflected in as the review of 7.6 goes forward for this application.
Okay, so I think so if we link it back to the 7 significant activity parameters that Aaron has read, I think what you've just described, Martin, is that there could be, so number 3, there could be diminishing of natural capacity to support wildlife, biological life, prevent flooding, facilitate drainage. It also sounds like you were talking about maybe part 4, which is turbidity. If we're going to link it back, if we're going to be that explicit, we should link it back. And then there's the potential to cause pollution of a wetland or water course. And it doesn't, and then, and damages or destroys unique. Well, I don't think, we don't know. I didn't see if this isn't a NDDB area, which is interesting. So we'd have to look at that, and we can look at that. In any case, I think what you described, Martin, fits into at least 2 or 3 of those 7 significant activities that we have gone over tonight. Okay, so
Exactly, thank you.
well,
Yeah, both of you.
since we're being very, since we're being very clear, which is a good thing. So I will entertain a motion to vote on defining this application as a significant activity. Someone wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we find that this application is considered a significant activity with regard to potential wetland impacts.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of this being a significant activity? Raise your hand, say aye. All right,
Aye.
we have unanimous consent on here for this being a significant activity. Given that, do we need to vote on a public hearing, or does this automatically?
No, that automatically triggers it. The next item to vote on would be whether or not the commission feels you may be looking for some outside expertise to assist your review of potential impacts. So that's, and I think it's section 8 and section 10 of our regulations that both trigger that.
Right, and
To
in
see
the
where I
previous
have that.
application, we had asked for engineering and wetland soil
Wetland
science.
environment, yep, wetland scientist.
And we'd gone through the selection process also, had we not?
We did, mhm, and I did
Yep.
receive, it went out to at least 3 professional firms, engineering and environmental firms. And we had gotten a response that first time from Codis Bodie and Associates for the engineering review and Davison Environmental for the wetland review. So should the commission feel you want to move forward in that direction again, I'll go out again and request proposals. They had initially included some estimated costs, so those would likely change just because some of the development is limited now in the upland area.
Do you remember what the range of those costs were, Aaron, by any chance?
Was roughly about $15,000 total.
For a total, yeah.
Thoughts from the commission?
Now, from my
Yeah.
perspective, the more information, the better, but Martin, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I know, perfect. Yeah, I agree. I think it would be nice to get some technical assistance on this for review.
And Anna, you're nodding your head. I agree as well. So I will make a motion that we ask our agent to request or to put proposals together and request outside evaluations for engineering and wetland or environmental scientists to review this application. Anybody want a second?
Second, third,
All right. All right. You have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I was just thinking about the timing though. I mean, would there be sufficient
that's the-
time to select before the site visit, or will we have all of them who are proposing come out and join us with the site visit, or what's the best way to handle that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Lee. I think you should set the public hearing. You do have 65 days from receipt to open that public hearing, and I think in this particular case, that's appropriate to allow time to get your consultant on board and to be able to, one, have the commission do a site visit and as well as the consultant, do their thorough review prior to the hearing opening. So if that's the case, that would bring us to our December 5th meeting to schedule the public hearing. So you should have a motion for that as well.
And that would give you enough time to get somebody on board and us to get out there
Yes.
for site visit. Okay.
Sure. So you could decide if you'd like to schedule, we can schedule your walk this month or next month. It just, I don't know if you'd prefer to have it when it's warmer or when it's closer to the, you're going to you're going to lose vegetation come December. So it might not be a bad idea to get out there sooner than later.
Right.
And walk the site. And we can schedule, we don't have any other receipts. So really it's the only walk we need to plan. So if you wanted to plan that for this month, we can do that. I can.
So would our consultants still have a separate site walk on their own?
Sure, they could
With
visit the
applicant?
site
Yeah, okay.
independently.
Yeah.
I think the way that we had done the initial RFP was for attendance to 2 commission meetings. Those would be these Zoom meetings and not necessarily the walk meeting. If you specifically wanted the consultant, there's not a lot of discussion on a site walk, so it doesn't really make all that much sense to have them there because they're not going to walk you through a review process.
Right.
I think it's better to have them at the actual agency evening meetings.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it makes sense for us to schedule our walk, I guess, sooner rather than later. And I think the public hearing for December sounds good, but happy to hear what others think as well.
No, I agree. December sounds good.
And do we need to vote on that, Erin? Or is that just something we can?
Yes, you can vote to set the public hearing, and then I can have Maria send an email and we can get a general consensus. It's going to start getting darker earlier, so an evening probably isn't the best bet for a site walk. We should probably schedule a Saturday so we can pull everybody and see what your availability is this month.
Okay, so you're saying vote for a site walk, but what about and vote for a public hearing?
Vote the date of the public hearing. You can
Okay.
vote that you want to have a site walk and that the date will be advertised as a special site walk
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
I move we schedule the public hearing in the December meeting, which is, what do you say, December 3rd, I guess?
5th, I think I said.
5th, December 5th.
all right, I'll second that.
Third,
Great, thirds, all right, all in favor? Or thirds or fourths, okay, yes, all right, I will move that we schedule a site walk for this application with the date to be determined depending on agency members' attendance and will be duly noted as a special meeting.
second,
Second.
All right,
Sure.
all in favor? Here we go, yay. All right, successfully voted.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else for this application that we need to? Oh, Martin. Oh.
Oh my gosh, not again.
oh, freaking funny. I got everything backwards today.
Disaster.
My brain is on mute. I just wanted to go on the record and say that I have worked with Bob Russo, the soil scientist for CLA Engineers, for over 30 years. I've worked with him in another company. I worked as a subcontractor for him, and I've had him as a subcontractor for me. So I just wanted but none of the projects we've ever worked in have taken place in Madison. So I just wanted to disclose that. And also, fairly recently, I've started doing wetland delineations, small delineations and small wetland reports for Stevens, the engineer and surveyor for this project. Again, no projects in the town of Madison. And I feel that I can be impartial with this application in spite of those relationships. But if anybody has any comments or would disagree, I would certainly, I'm all ears.
So thanks, Martin. And I'll let the applicant know, and also would ask that you repeat that on the record when the hearing opens.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, that is great. So I am going to scroll down and go to our section 13, which is, I assume, already done. So it was 22-41 31 Chapman Avenue. Is there anything you wanted to say about that, Erin? About
The
that?
closest, sure, the closest inland wetlands are across the street on this application. This is a pending coastal site plan application with the Planning and Zoning Commission that will be heard on October 20th. And actually, the majority of activity is closer to tidal, actually not tidal wetlands, but coastal resource. And it's more the trenching of a gas line in the road and the edge of the septic system reinstallation that actually nicks the 100-foot upland review. I thought with adequate E&S controls, I think that was fine to handle that one as an agent approval. And another agent approval had been issued on this site in the past, so it was being consistent in review. So that's all I had on that one.
Okay. Great. So our next agenda item is approval of minutes from September 12th, 2022. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look at them. I had one comment. I know it's on page 3, about a third of the way down the page in the paragraph that says after public comments. So the last part of that sentence, the last sentence says she also stated additional information is needed from the applicant as there's a need to understand other wetlands and the impact. I guess it was more just thinking it was to understand if there were other wetlands and any impacts. I think the way it was phrased, I just wanted, so I'm offering that just as a clarification because we were interested in knowing if there were other wetlands in order to assess impacts. So I guess that would be my only, that I mean, it's kind of minor, but it also, I didn't want us to be saying that we knew there were other wetlands. I mean, outside, because we already knew about the vernal pond. This was more just to, do what they did and look beyond the 100-foot to see, or look within the 100 feet to see if there was something going on there. So that was my only, I'm scrolling through. I think that was my only comment. Did anybody else have anything they saw that they wanted to? Yes, Martin.
Yes. I wanted to add to the Racebrook application narrative the points that Erin brought up earlier in tonight's meeting about the specifics of 7.6 that we asked for on the record during that meeting.
Right, and it's there. It's on
page 3.
It's on page 3. It's actually it's right after the sentence that I said. It says,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so it's all right there. I mean, it is spelled out there.
Okay. Erin also mentioned something about the NDDB listing with regard to the listed turtles, and we wanted to make sure that there was some comments included about that.
That is a thing.
You remember
So
saying that, Erin, at the beginning of the race
Yep,
hill tonight? Yeah.
that was something that was requested. You mentioned the NDDB report, and how the applicant planned to manage the precautions that they recommended.
Right, okay, thank you. I think that's the only thing that was in addition to 7.6. Other than what Mr. Snarski provided us tonight in terms of the additional wetland review area. So that's the only addition I would have to those minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes?
No,
All right.
I move we approve the minutes of the September 12th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Any comments? Oh, wait, second. So we have a second. I would just say that, as amended or as discussed.
As amended and as discussed.
Okay.
Thanks.
All in favor? Raise your
Aye.
hand. Aye, or say whatever. Okay, excellent. All right, so our next item on the agenda is a discussion. And this is something Aaron had brought up last time, suggesting that when we had a lighter agenda that we could talk about our applications, what we are looking for specifically for requirements and the review process. And I didn't know, Aaron, did you want to kind of start us off on that discussion?
Sure, and we don't, I know, of course, when we have a light load now, we want a short meeting, so. there's no-
But that's okay. I mean,
So we
we're doing well.
can kind of just talk
Set the
about this
stage.
briefly and get us started, and I can bring you some and send you some more information, and I had hoped to be able to do that, and I just have piles. So, but I think this has kind of come up as our application form is quite outdated, and I would like to update our form. And I have various examples from other municipalities, some where I worked previously, others from neighboring communities. And I wanted to kind of compare them, basic things, emails instead of fax numbers, some of these. So just basics for property identification, and also what we want submitted with applications and what information you need to better assess these projects and determine how you can approve these, if so, and what conditions you'd place on them. So one that I think now we sort of had this year of being with you, it's been a year already, of kind of learning how the commission has acted and information that you've received. And I'm not the type of person, I don't want to come in and just impose changes and things like that. I wanted to really get a sense of how you operate and what historically has been required by the agency. I think as I look through the last several years of permits, our number of permits, the volume of permits has increased significantly, I think, of applications that have come before the agency. I think some were either not considered regulated activities or were issued approvals under Section 13 as an agent approval. And so I think John kind of had a new or a fresh look at how he was reviewing applications and working with you as far as giving you the authority rather than just the agent. I know I've had this discussion when I was in Guilford as far as what the commission felt comfortable having their agent do. And so I kind of went back through other towns of what's required and when we have what information we want. I think we're good as far as filtering from a staff level, I think over the last year, I am comfortable with what has filtered through to you for full agency approvals. I think every one of those was justified. And I, particularly as an agent doing this for several years, I don't like to overstep my my boundaries. And I think there are activities which could be considered a moderate activity, not necessarily a significant, that should fall under full meeting review. That being said, I'd like to present you with some options for new applications. I mean, some applications are applications specifically. What's nice is that we have a checklist where it's a one form where you can check off the box of what specifically you're looking for. You know, sometimes that's a hindrance also to both the agency and the applicant, where some of the information you're looking to have or that's listed on the application doesn't necessarily apply to that level of a permit. It may be overkill, you know, and so I don't think the commission historically has looked at applications as a one size fits all. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit with the significant activities and what information you very thoughtfully went through that and to look and see what would specifically relate to that type of proposed use and impact. So I do support that. I can tell you personally, some of my experience, Guilford was fairly conservative as far as what was allowed to be an agent approval versus what was before the commission. The commission saw almost all applications. When I worked for the city of Norwalk, we as staff would determine the level of the permit, whether it was a minor, a moderate, or significant. And so the minors were, you know, the agent approvals, the moderates went before the agency, and each type of the application had unique criteria that had to be submitted as part of that application. So there are some options if you would like multiple forms, if you want me to kind of give you a flavor of what other towns or cities have done. Some do a checklist. Most of them have wonderful websites with lots of great links and information. And that's something I think is also helpful for our agency to have, you know, the information that we provide on our page is useful. Whether that's tied in with conservation, you know, native species, do you want planting plans? Some of these applications, we're not getting as much information as I think you could. You know, I think having a soils report, a general soils report is becoming pretty standard in the review process with wetland agencies. Doesn't necessarily have to be reflected on an A2 survey or, you know, a T2 survey, depending on the type of project, but there's usually some level of a soil scientist delineating the wetland, giving some, whether it's on an aerial photo or, you know, GIS mapping with some topo on it, flagging. I think, and Martin, you know, this is your field as well. From the soil reports, I can, you know, I think having a wetland scientist information on a survey is pretty standard as well, as far as doing business these days. So I don't know what other, you know, information you're looking for that might help your decision making. You know, we've had some turnover in the board. We do have some new members. I know you both bring, and Martin, you bring another level of expertise. I think it's great that we have a well-qualified agency here with your professional backgrounds. I just, you know, I just thought this was a good opportunity to kind of listen to some new suggestions, listen to, you know, our existing or our longer term agency members to feel, you know, where you've been coming from through the years and what you think has worked and what you might want to change also. And see if we can just kind of bring ourselves up to date and take this as an opportunity where you've had an interim position for quite some time. I am still an interim position, but as you do fall under my umbrella of land use department, I do think it is a priority of mine to make sure that you have everything you need to operate properly and do your roles. So that's kind of what I have at this point. I don't have a lot to screen share with you, but just kind of opening us up for seeing how you'd like to move forward.
Well, that was super helpful. And Martin, I can see, no, you can stay unmuted. I'll let you talk.
Oh no, he's doomed it.
No, I think it would be, for me personally, it would be great to see some of the other towns that you've mentioned. I think it would be helpful if I love the idea of being super clear up front with our applicants about, you know, the basics that we're expecting, because it does come up again and again. I think, as you've noted, that there are kind of some set things that we are looking for that often aren't there. And it's, you know, it can be frustrating for the applicant. It can be frustrating for everyone all around to have to go back and forth. If we could streamline that at the get-go, that would be helpful. But Martin, you go ahead.
No, that's you're absolutely right. One thing I think that's been going really well for the commission is the agent approval process. I like how, you know, I think Erin's done a great job deciding what is agent approval and what isn't, and still, you know, bringing it to us, giving us a summary of, you know, what the applications are. And I think you've been right on with everyone, and I feel really comfortable with that process. I just wanted to say that. And I think where things become maybe dicey or difficult is, let's say, you know, you've got a deck and somebody wants to expand it and it's just going to be one footing and it's going to be maybe 10 feet closer to a wetland that might be 60 or 80 feet away. And, you know, when do you say to a homeowner, we need a soil scientist to delineate the wetlands? I know you're just putting in one footing. It looks like it's pretty far away. And I think we've done that in the past, just sort of used common sense. And I think I'd like to maybe keep that open, although I tend to lean toward the side of really wanting a soil scientist to delineate wetlands if we're going to be coming to the wetlands agency, or at least having Erin, you know, for all those agency approvals. Erin, you go to the site actually, right?
Yes.
You do a visit. Yeah. So I'm comfortable.
Yes,
with
they need a site
yeah.
visit.
That's I'm comfortable with that process. But I think in general for applications, we should have a USGS topo map. I think that gives a lot of information to the commission and to the agency and to the record that, you know, what topography actually looks like. And those, you know, those USGS maps are pretty, you know, accurate, and they give us a lot of information about soils and drainage areas. And I think that, you know, the average computer savvy homeowner can find a topo map.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. I don't think it's onerous to have an applicant provide a topo map for our regular applications. And also, I think, again, for our regular applications, a map that has been signed by a soil scientist indicating that the wetlands as shown on the map are substantially correct, you know, at a minimum. And even or a one-page letter from a soil scientist saying, I came, I saw, I went, I hung 12 flags, and here they were, just at a minimum, that minimum level of documentation. So we can hang our hat on something. I always look that, you know, we're trying to establish a record. Our record has to be consistent with our decisions, right? And we need to base that on some pretty consistent information. So our applications need to, you know, sort of look the same. We need to sort of have a baseline of what we require from the applicants. And so we can make, you know, even-handed, you know, decisions based on similar information. So anything beyond, you know, the one-page soil delineation letter and the topo map, you know, sort of depends on, you know, the nuances of how close and what the quality of the wetlands and the intensity of the development. I think, you know, beyond that it's really hard to stipulate what we want, and it could be onerous, you know, with more impacts or closer impacts or greater impacts, we start to look for things, from section 7.6 or functions and values, or how will the development adversely impact the wetlands or not. In some cases, we feel comfortable without requiring any additional information. In some cases, we want additional information. So maybe there's somewhere between, an agency approval and a significant activity. There's some baseline, that we want to create without putting too much burden on the applicant. Maybe a minimum of a topo map with a site location, and a minimum of a soil scientist letter and or signed, plan that a soil scientist, delineated it. And those are sort of the baseline conditions. Maybe an aerial view is helpful. I always find those really helpful.
Well, and often, and I think getting to that point, there's typically an expense when you would look at having an applicant have an A2 or a T2 survey done. You're talking thousands of dollars and time to get this information to the agency. So when you mention, having a soil scientist come out, delineate the boundary, show that on a topographic map. The topographic maps are free. And typically for a smaller scale project, wetland delineation is what, a few $1,000s, 500, a few hundred, 500, it's a relatively inexpensive process to go through the agent. So I think keeping perspective of what we're asking and what type of burden does that place on an applicant for, smaller scale applications, I don't think that that's really asking too much in some of those cases for just, a basic identification and GIS mapping.
I would say it's under $1,000 routinely for just a single family residence with a quick delineation and letter or documentation. Yeah, you're right on.
So, we're requiring from a zoning standpoint, A2 surveys for activities near a setback line. Any new house, it's standard. You're going to have surveys, you're going to have engineering plans. This isn't anything, unheard of. So in many cases, you'll already be getting, A2 surveys. It's the homeowners where you're looking, I think it's always a scary concept for homeowners when they come in and go, we have wetlands, I don't know what to do, and feel the regulations are vague. There's not a setback. It's just a review. What does that mean? And, so there's a lot of, in their minds, it's unknown. And sometimes even from zoning, standpoint, I hear a lot of zoning goes, oh, wetlands, who knows? You never know what that's going to mean or what you need to do or a buffer. So as Kayla has said, having upfront expectations is great for both you, for the applicant. It kind of dispels some of the fears that people have and realize that, we understand that homeowners will undertake. Sometimes it's just a landscaping activity. It's not a structure at all that's considered a regulated activity. So, that combination of photos or aerial photos and topo that's available through GIS is enough. And that's where you get into site walks and things like that too, that can help your decision process. So I do think I agree with you that there's the ability to have some level of discretion of what needs to be done, but also maintain that bare minimum, I think, to help you make your decisions. We're going off of in our GIS currently, we're going off of, I think, 2009 USDA soil map. So for what, inland wetlands. So that's pretty much what we have. And I kind of, you overlay the topo on that to get a good sense of kind of where you think it's gonna lie. And sometimes it's nowhere near what our inland wetland map is. So, I always kind of liken that to the airbrush of, it looks like there's wetlands there, but really when you look at the topography, it may not be. It may be down, 50 feet on your property. So you really do have to look at it and get out there. And sometimes, to just walk the site, you don't necessarily know where that boundary is. So we do need the delineations. So good points, Martin, not to overtalk this here, sorry.
I'm wondering if maybe you can email us some of those other applications or ones that you like.
Yeah, I could draft one up too and kind of pick up
Yeah,
the key points and see what's worked
and then maybe we can add comments to it or
elsewhere.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do it as a working document and see how everybody feels or what you'd like. It's not in the regulations. So our regs are modeled after the state's inland wetland regs, and the rest is kind of up to us to figure out through policy and process here. So yeah, I mean, it's spelled out clearly what additional information, and that you can always ask for more information to assist in your decision making, and what types of conditions you can place on applications. But really, yeah, we want, not an overly lengthy application form, but ones that really highlight specifically what we need. And then if you want additional information, then you ask for that at the meetings.
I think it would also be helpful on the checklist that we have, because I know some people, they don't know where to find USGS maps. Maybe just including like a link to the USGS website, so it's a little bit more accessible. I think that would be helpful. And then maybe, I know we had a few applications over the past few months where the delineations were 10, 15 years old. I don't know if it's, within something we can do and saying, maybe have them be within 5 years old or something like that. And kind of putting that on the form itself. Because I know there was one person that was like a little disgruntled. They had to go back and get a delineation that was, 10, 15 years old.
I think that's a good question. And we've had that same, when I was in Guilford, kind of had that same, is 10 years okay, a subdivision map, and now the homeowner comes in and wants to put a deck on, and do we need that do we need that delineation updated from what it was 10 years ago? I think that you probably should kind of talk out. I don't know off the top of my head what's standard across the industry or through other municipalities. I'm happy to reach out and kind of get a feel so that what other agencies are doing. And Martin, you may be able to kind of give some feedback just from your own personal experience.
yeah,
That is one that comes up as a question. That's good, Anne.
yeah. It's definitely a good thing to think about. I think 5 years is a decent number. I think 10 years gets to be a little stale and things can happen. I think in the case of a subdivision, as you brought up, I think it's a good example where you've got multiple lots and the subdivision was approved with a wetland delineation, and then people are putting in houses. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later. I think that those could work if the documentation at the time of the subdivision was excellent. In other words, all the wetland flags are shown, the soil scientist signed the plan, and there's really good documentation that a soil scientist actually, did the delineation. Except if we think we need to see the flags out in the field. I guess after 5 years, they're going to be gone. But sometimes if there's something that's getting close to the wetlands and we're not sure of, the boundary's not really clear based on the subdivision map and the proposed plans, then maybe we want to have somebody come out. But I think in those circumstances that those can work again based on depending on the level of documentation.
And technically, I guess you could say the surveyor could go out and
relocate those flags.
Relocate the flags down the road.
That's a good idea.
Wouldn't necessarily need that, but you would have some physical marker then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would be a soil scientist. Okay.
Yeah,
I could get a little more information, if that's kind of what everybody's going with is the 5-year, or I think some of it depends on the site characteristics too. If you've got a wetland that's clearly down gradient, that's not creeping up, a 10-foot slope, you're pretty confident that that's probably still where the wetland line is. But I guess in a flatter instance, yeah, there are some, clearly some changing wetland lines. So, okay, I'll see what I can figure out, and get some more information from others for you on that.
Okay, so I think that sounds great, and it'll be nice if, to have a working document and some more information, and hopefully, make everything easier for everyone, the applicant, make it more clear for us and them. Maybe it'll make our meetings shorter. Just
Right.
putting it out there.
Yeah, and then the other is I would be recommending that we update our fee schedule as well.
Okay.
So that's something, the land use fees, they are set by the Board of Selectmen. It is via ordinance. But I will submit some recommendations to you to kind of go through. I did this recently. We did this in Guilford as well, both through zoning and inland wetlands. So at that time, we kind of gathered a lot of information from neighboring communities. So I'd like to present that to you and kind of hash out what you think is reasonable. I think our fees are fairly low, and could reflect the amount of effort that goes through just for general review and covering the costs of legal notices and things like that. Fees for actions, even every action that you take has to be, as an agency, is paid for by the land use department, and those fees are going up. So we at least want to be able to cover our internal expenses moving forward. So that's another item that I'll bring to you.
Okay, well, that'll be fun. That's great. Anything else that for this discussion that anybody wanted to bring up?
Nope.
Okay, then,
Thanks.
yeah, no, thanks, Erin. This is actually really helpful. I'm glad we had space tonight to have this discussion. It'll be great to move forward and work on this. I think it's going to be really helpful. So our next item on the agenda are remarks. So just as we noted, sadly, at the beginning of the meeting, John Mathieu has resigned after 20 years. So I guess he's allowed. If he's watching, I guess he's not, but if he watches this on YouTube, we miss you. And so that's great. He was, he really gave a lot of volunteer service to Madison for 20 years.
Yep.
And I think he does a lot of volunteer service outside of this, but in and of itself, 20 years on the Inland Wetlands Agency is, a lot and helpful to get people. And so it is the four of us plus Bob and Joe. So we're at 6, except Anna is
Five
alternate.
regular members and 1 alternate.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, are we in need of new members?
Yes. I think we're supposed to have 7 and 3 alternates is your composition.
Okay.
So the Board of Selectmen did accept John's resignation and are always looking for new residents to volunteer their time.
right.
Should we
So-
make Ann a permanent member then, or how does
The
that work?
board, that is something that the board can entertain and At this point, it might be in December. So that's something I will mention, if you're interested in, to Peggy.
I
that-
meant to ask, you know, how do I become a member?
Okay, good. So that's something that, you know, when they're appointing or reappointing members in December, that's something that the board can do, is move you up to fill a regular seat. As long as the party composition, you know, matches our minority representation, which at this point, I believe it does. So
Is
that
there
would
a
be-
difference between, you know, a major difference between alternate and member?
Yes, so technically, as an alternate, you do not have the ability to vote on any applications unless a regular member is absent or disqualified. So now it doesn't come up too much, and you know, but oftentimes you'll be in attendance at a meeting and you might feel that you're not being heard or useful, but you are very useful. We do, you know, rely on alternates, but yeah. So that's the real major difference. In a public hearing, it's a little more specific as far as the ability to deliberate or take part in a public hearing if regular members are there. We don't have nearly as many public hearings with inland wetlands as we do.
Yeah, but it makes, to me, it makes more sense to make her a member than a new person that comes
Exactly.
in, so.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I'll let Peggy know, that she can slate for this winter to do.
Okay, that would be great.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Anne.
All right, and then, so that was my comment. So it looks like, Aaron, you had some comments on, is it Kakiwick?
Yes, so we are members of Kakiwick, and you know, their big event is their annual meeting and seminar. So I think I sent that information and the link out to everybody. We do ask that if you want to attend, that you pay up front for your registration, and we will reimburse you. We've had some instances where the town foots the bill for several people who don't bother to show up. So we feel if you take that step and are willing to register, then there's a real interest in attending. But it's a good meeting. This is the 50th anniversary of the inland wetlands regulations. So you know, it does kind of encompass both conservation and the regulatory aspects of wetland protection. I've signed up. I'm kind of going through the, I don't know if you looked at it, but I think it's the Plan B route, which is more of the regulatory end of it, legal updates, things of that nature. And there was one on vernal pools, I think I signed up for. So you could sign up for 3 different seminars. But it'd be great if anybody is able to come. It's kind of an all-day thing in North Haven on a Saturday. I understand if you don't have time, but want to give you the opportunity.
Okay,
That's it.
well, great. Yeah, I looked at that. I'm gonna look at my calendar. I haven't been to one, and I feel I need to go, but I'm not sure. I think it's always like, I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't know if I can do. But that is great. It's a great opportunity. Okay, so I'm looking at our agenda. We have one last motion that someone can make.
I move
Two.
we adjourn the meeting.
Yes,
There you
me,
go.
getting in there. Oh, I'm gonna second. All right, all in favor? of adjourning?
Aye.
Great. All right, so, we will see
Everyone.
you maybe this month with a sidewalk.
Yep,
Yes.
we'll send out and check your dates, okay? And
Okay.
we'll see what we can agree on.
Excellent.